It's a big year for Aussie politics, with a federal election just around the corner. But aside from the usual battle of policies and promises, there is another big potential challenge facing Labor, the Coalition, the Greens, and, well, every political party this year. And that is artificial intelligence.
Now, AI in elections isn't actually a new thing. In fact, it's had a hand in some way or another since social media platforms began using it in their algorithms around 2015. But what makes things different for this election is that AI has gotten much more sophisticated, and there are a lot more people online to see it.
According to ACMA, 99% of Australians have internet access. Data reportals say nearly 78% of Australians use social media, and the University of Canberra's digital news report says that 49% of Australians get their news from social media.
I think that's the main place I consume my news. I don't really go on news channels, I don't read newspapers. If I hear about something going on in the world, it will be through a friend who's heard it on social media, or it will be hearing it on social media myself.
But yeah, I get most of my news from social media, or from a friend who's heard it from social media.
Sometimes I get my news from social media. I use mainly TikTok, but sometimes I float around on Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that.
I'd say Instagram or Facebook. Social medias like Snapchat and don't really have any news stories, or at least I avoid them on there.
And have you come across any AI-generated political content?
I'm not exactly sure because some of it is hard to, denote between what's been made by a person and what's been made by artificial intelligence. And that's quite scary, to be honest.
AI is a relatively new technology. We are seeing it emerging very rapidly though. The scale of a federal election means that we're likely to see many more instances over the next few months.
Last year was the biggest year for elections in history, and it gave us plenty of examples of how AI might dip its digital toes into our election this year. Over in the US, researchers found X was flooded with an army of AI-powered bots spreading pro-Republican propaganda. There were AI images of celebrities like Taylor Swift falsely endorsing candidates, and an AI-generated deepfake of Joe Biden's voice was used to make robocalls to voters in New Hampshire, encouraging them not to vote in their primary elections. Indonesia's elections saw AI used to create a cartoon avatar of now President Prabowo Subianto to soften his image to young voters. And political party Golkar used AI to create a deepfake video of deceased former President Suharto, encouraging voters to vote for his party.
Terus menyala dari generasi ke generasi.
Over in the UK, the BBC's Undercover Voters project found TikTok awash with AI-generated videos spreading misinformation, littered with bot comments. And there was even an AI avatar called AI Steve that ran in the general election.
These are just a few examples, and not all of them are necessarily bad.
Like in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi used AI to translate his speeches in real time so more Indians could connect.
But it's still unclear how AI will be used during the Australian election campaign.
So the challenge for voters obviously is to decide what's true. The AEC doesn't have a role in determining what's true in political advertising. That's absolutely the role of the voter.
G'day Tasmanians, it's Senator Jackie Lambie here.
It is really scary that they're this close to sounding like Jackie Lambie. It's only going to be a matter of months, I'd say months, before they have it exact.
Are you concerned at all that AI could influence the upcoming Australian election?
Oh, definitely. Like, if it starts looking more real than it used to, then maybe people could think that a candidate is actually saying something bad. So, for example, like, someone made an AI-generated video of Peter Dutton saying, "Oh, I hate kittens and I think they should all be deported from Australia." Then people could think, "Oh no, he's deporting all the kittens from Australia, how rude." And yeah, even though it's a silly example, like, there could be something like much more, harsh or something.
Recently, researchers from the Recapture project found AI-generated videos targeting Australian politicians on Chinese social media platform RedNote, which now has more than 700,000 monthly users in Australia.
Some videos show Peter Dutton speaking fluent Mandarin, claiming he will abolish the Aboriginal flag if elected, and comparing international students to modern-day refugees who stow away on boats.
Those videos definitely aren't real, But algorithms on social media platforms favour content that drives engagement, meaning posts that make people feel angry, scared or anxious will appear in more feeds, whether they're true or not, raising concerns about AI misinformation and disinformation on social media swaying Australian voters.
It's very big at the moment, and especially with like Gen Z and now a lot of them able to like vote and stuff, I'd say it's probably gonna be a big influence.
The AI is getting good, and like especially older people wouldn't be able to tell if it's like AI or not, so they could get like fooled or tricked into things and voting for certain people.
AI is really good. I've been tricked by AI a lot of times. I think especially with the older generation who don't know as much about AI or social media, they could for sure see an AI video of Anthony Albanese saying something that he hasn't said, and then that sways their opinion on the election. I think it could, but I don't know if it will.
Most of people like us, we are losing our basic judgment, critical thinking on the social media. We are just focusing on something fun instead of thinking, because we just look at it and enjoy it without thinking. Without thinking, we don't know which is right, which is wrong, which is true, which is false, and we will be misled.
Social media platforms are aware of this though.
And in the case of Meta, which runs Facebook, Instagram and Threads, it says it's learnt a lot from last year's global elections.
And will try and stop the spread of AI misinformation in our election via things like fact-checking in collaboration with news agency the Australian Associated Press.
We work really closely with all of the social media platforms. We've got a great working relationship with them, and that only increases as we get into election time. You'll see a lot of our material across all social media channels. That might differ across the election timeline depending on where we're at, but what you will definitely see is our Stop and Consider campaign, which the social media companies have been very supportive of.
The AEC's Stop and Consider campaign is all about encouraging voters to think critically about what they see online this election.
Stop and think about the source of that material. Is that a source that they can trust? Think about the content. Does it feel like the full story? Does it feel like it makes sense? And if you're in any doubt about what you're seeing online, contact the AEC through any of our social media channels or jump on our website and we can help you work your way through whatever might be troubling you.
You can always use an AI detector by screenshotting or putting it into any AI detector on the internet.
The really good AI videos, you'll have to look for it, but you can always find a bit of an inconsistency. And if it's an audio, I would just try and compare it with them actually speaking. You can hear a difference, it's just you've got to try very hard.
It could influence a small part of the population, but I can't see it really changing the whole side. I reckon it'd probably be like 25, 75 around that.
Currently, right now, AI isn't really that advanced, but I'm guessing in the future it will become more realistic and harder to tell.
I think AI has gotten a little bit out of hand at this point. I don't think it should have been made open source on the internet.
It is getting worryingly good, but I don't think it's good enough to really trick anyone important about anything important.
I feel like AI is very inconsistent, especially if you're making multiple like photos or speeches and stuff.
I think right now it's not, I don't think it's that big of a threat, but I think, yeah, in a few years, even like, I don't know, maybe even 3 years, like, it could be a lot bigger.